back. We had a little time off here at Practical Wellness Radio. Cody and I are excited to be back. We'll talk about what was going on kind of during our time off here. We took an episode off. We'll talk about it in the show. But today, Cody and I are just recapping kind of what's been going on for us in the last few months. But before we dive into that, we're going to start today like we do every episode with our warm-up waves just to kind of get things rolling. Again, this is for anybody who, might be on their way to work, on their way to gym, or just hanging out around the house trying to get some crap done. But so today, we're going to touch on a topic of virtuosity, and some of us may have heard of this term before, but it's just kind of, one of the definitions is, performing the common, but doing it uncommonly well, right? And so unlike risk and originality, like virtuosity is very elusive, like supremely elusive, but it is, however, like very recognized by your audience or the people around you, coworkers, whoever it might be. Often there's a tendency among, people getting started in whatever endeavor they're on, if they're a novice, developing like a skill or learning a new task or playing an instrument, whatever that may be, first move past kind of the fundamentals, right? And move towards like more elaborate or sophisticated skills or movements or techniques. But today is the day after Labor Day, so a lot of people are going back to work. If you're listening to this today on the day after Labor Day, just think of different ways that you can implement some virtuosity into your life, and that'll hopefully set you up for success moving forward by doing the common things uncommonly well. Let's get it.
But yeah, we got a new one coming in Friday. It's kind of one of those stressful things of like, and they need my signature. It's one of those things where like you need a signature for them to actually like leave it with you. And I'm like, I don't know when you're coming, or like if I'll, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Man, I remember when you got that desktop and you set it up in your house, and I was like, man, who wants and uses a desktop anymore? Like, why don't you just get a laptop? And I think you already have a laptop too. And then now when I watch you work on like your dual monitors with your desktop, I was like, that's so badass. Like
it's
I kind of
so much
want
easier.
that. I'm stuck here on my little laptop. Yeah.
You're limited by one screen. The screen's smaller depending on your laptop. It's just less productive. It doesn't feel as good.
Yeah, and I don't bang
mouse
out as much time on my computer as probably you do. But there are times when I do, and I'm like, man, I've got like my fingers on this little like keyboard, click, 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 away, and I'm like, it'd be nice if I could just, I don't know, like sit up straight and like sit, at a nice
like,
desk.
dude, I've had to use this laptop for everything for the last 2 weeks, and I'm just like, I'm over it. I'm fine like doing some things on it. Like I try to program on it, I'm like, God, like the window's so much smaller, I can't see as much, or like the scrolling isn't as smooth, and it just like adds up. Like I'm over this. So hopefully that
when you program for people, how far in advance are you usually like programming out for them? Probably depends on the individual and the goals and all that, right? But
yeah, I've kind of learned. I used to program further out, a couple weeks out. Obviously, for the most part, we have a rough idea where we're going. It kind of depends on the adherence of the client as well. So the idea is that it's progressive. So if you don't do a workout, it's hard for me to progress it because you're not getting the stimulus to progress. So there is that.
Yeah.
So long story short, I've learned to not program too far ahead because then I just end up adjusting a lot in terms of like the details. So I'll just do a week ahead. So even just this morning, I was starting to do next week for everybody, depending on if they have or are caught up on their workouts or not. So generally about a week to 5 days, depending on kind of where everything falls, for sure. And I try to break it up a little bit as well. So I'll usually start on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then I'll wrap it up on Friday or Saturday for everybody for the next week.
Yeah, maybe you're like me in this sense too, where you know what you're gonna program for like 2-3 weeks in advance, but like putting it down and putting it into the sets and reps and flow and all that is maybe like the final touches. When somebody, so for example, if somebody misses a day of programming, let's say this is a person who, is doing 3 days a week programming. Do you have them just skip that day, or do you have them like get to it when they can? Or is it something that like
Depends.
it's
Kind of
gone,
depends on
just
the
move on to
person.
the,
If
yeah.
some people, like if
Yeah.
they miss a day, it's gone. Other people
Mm-hmm.
maybe might try to make it up to some context. So it just kind of depends.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a person that for whatever reason it's missed and it's gone, I do float it to the next week because it's important to hit that workout
Yeah.
for progress, and maybe make a little bit of adjusting. But they kind of just float, and we got to try to get to them. I mean, that's the end of the day thing, right? Is if we want to make
That's what
progress
they
long term,
want.
we
That's
got to
what you
hit
want.
the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, we got to do the thing, right? And if we don't do the thing, we got to make sure like we get to the thing at some point. We can't do another thing until we do that thing, right?
Yeah.
We can't,
The
for
thing
our
is important.
back squats, 200 pounds. Yeah, exactly. I've been saying that a lot lately.
Yeah.
So it's a good
The
like
thing.
stress management class, weight
That's
training. Like it's like I'm constantly referring to a thing, but in context it makes sense.
yeah.
I think, you know,
Yeah.
the thing changes depending on who I'm talking to and what we're talking about. But yeah, like you can't, if we're working to like whatever, we'll throw a number like a 200-pound back squat. We can't skip a step. You know what I mean? We can't skip a step
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to adaptation. We have to have that particular stressor that we're looking for to grow. So we can't just move on to
Every
move
step is
on.
integral.
Right, exactly. So that's an
Can't
important
skip
part.
steps.
So again, like kind of long story short, yeah, I've learned to wait a little bit more because like I do like to get ahead of, and I'm it's kind of a fault sometimes where I try to work so far ahead that it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like the IC Weightlifting Summit might be a good example of like it was like 8 months out from the event. I'm already like contacting all the gyms and coaches. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you interested in it? And everyone's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure. It's
Sure. But then
10 months
follow ups and
away. Yeah, and then
timelines
I'm like,
and
I kind
yeah,
of
all
have to
that
like
stuff.
redo everything because I'm like, oh, they said they were into it, 8 months ago. I need to now talk to them again.
Mm.
Um,
No, and I
so
can speak from a gym owner's perspective too. Yeah, like you can agree and say and be on board with a lot of things, but if it's not like written, like if you ask me something 10 months in advance, I say sure, and hopefully I write it down. But if it's 10 months out, I might be like, well, I'll get to that,
yeah,
later, and
yeah,
things might slip through the cracks. But yeah, so welcome into the podcast, and the thing that Cody is just thinking about and talking about is the IC Weightlifting Summit, which is why we were off. We missed a podcast a couple weeks ago, so we missed you guys. Hopefully, you guys missed us. I'm sure you missed Cody a lot, but hopefully, you were able to kind of check in at the IC Weightlifting Summit if you were local. So we absolutely, were available in that context, and I think the event was great. We had over probably 55-ish participants, both including the lift and learn. And
I'd say a little bit more. I'd say like closer to 70.
yeah,
That's probably not counting
70,
volunteers. So yeah, we
70.
probably get close to 80 total people involved
Yeah,
that day.
both in
sure.
the first half in the lift and learn, and then the non-traditional meet on the back half. You've had a few weeks kind of to, mull it over. What are your thoughts here initially, Cody, on the event? I can speak for you and for me. I think we were super pleased, and we are planning on running it again. I think it was a huge success.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely had some time to sit with it for a couple weeks now, and it was one of those big stressors in my life. It's kind of what consumed my brain. Because I wanted it to be successful. I wanted people to show up. And have it be a success. And everything's going to be individualized in terms of like perceptions and what went well and how the interactions went. But I think overall, in terms of an event, in terms of vibes, in terms of setting out to accomplish kind of our primary pillars, I think it was a success. And yeah, I think the plan is to do it again next year and hopefully improve upon it in a few different ways. What do you think? How do you think it went? Because you came out, you helped out, you're a big part of it. It couldn't have happened without you there. So what did you think?
First of all, I loved it. I kind of love those events. We ran quite a few events. I would say, which would be quite a few events like that when we were at Fort Collins CrossFit running the gym. And for whatever reason, I just really enjoy kind of all that. Like you said, it is a very stressful thing, and you kind of want to challenge yourself in that way where, hey, I'm going to put this thing together. There's going to be a lot of people there. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to be a misrepresentation of kind of the time and effort I put into. And so that's where a lot of the stress comes from, right? But I just really do enjoy, especially something you're passionate about, like health, fitness, wellness, lifting, competition even. I enjoy like sharing that experience and, growing that culture with others that are also, passionate about it. But I think I enjoy the preparation. I do actually. And I know that you put a lot more preparation into it than I did. But it's kind of like maybe we've talked about this before. It's a test, it's just like a test that you prepared well for. And you're never really super excited to like sit down and take like a standardized test, maybe when you're in school, but if you're ready for it, you're kind of like, all right, I'm going to smash this thing. Let's do it. And I think that there's always still a little anxiety that may, kind of come into that, whether that's a standardized test that, oh, I didn't know this was going to be on it. I didn't prepare for this. Or just like our event, like some things are just out of your control and are going to happen that you maybe didn't prepare for.
Show up and like things we don't have answers to, like questions we don't have answers to, won't be able to answer until that particular moment, like where are we going to set up these things, or what's this going to look like, or how many PVC pipes are we going to actually have. Like we didn't know some of that stuff until like we showed up, that morning, and it's like, okay, let's figure this out as we go, type of deal. And do our best, and then next year we can learn from that a little bit more and have better answers to those questions as we kind of approach the event too. Because like, and honestly, it's like, I don't know how many, like up until like a couple of days before the event, I'm like, I don't know how many people are going to be there, in terms of registration. Even then I'm like, how many of those people are actually going to show up? And I think most of them did, but especially when you're dealing with a free event, people can just like, it's easy to bail, how shitty that is, especially when it's a limited registration for like the meet. And we had a couple fellas not show up, and then that's pretty shitty, I think. Because again, like I had to tell people on Saturdays, like, hey, we're full. And I could have told people, hey, yeah, you can, right. But it's easy for them to say, I didn't pay anything. I don't have any investment in this, financially or even time, probably, because they're not training for this event specifically, just to not show up. So like, those were like kind of worries, day of event type stuff that, again, you just can't control, which is fine.
Yeah. And without exactly. Without, trying too hard to speak in circles. That's exactly what I was going to say too, is, being that it is a free event, we tried really hard to make this a free event. And we kind of talked about how this was almost a celebration of movement, a celebration of fitness, a celebration of strength. And we wanted it to be free. We wanted it to like, I don't know, just maybe spark a little bit more growth in the community and growth in the passion and kind of this stuff that we're passionate about. Right. And with that, we were like, okay, let's make this free. Let's make this accessible. Many obstacles that people might have, we wanted to try to, level those out as much as possible. And so when you're doing an event on a Sunday morning in a college town, what do a lot of people do on Saturday night in a college town? We had like a little bit of fear of like, a lot of these people that are going to, maybe back out. And, you're right. There were maybe just a handful, not a lot that did, maybe but 2 or 3. Still, I think was such a fun.
For the meet, I think there was maybe 5 or 6 that didn't show up for the lift and learn, but it is what it is, right? And I think ultimately it was a success.
Yeah, it's still such a fun event.
Yeah, and there's definitely things we can improve upon, especially like for the lift and learn. Part of that too is like, it's such a challenge to get the people that you're envisioning at the event. And the people that showed up were great, but I think a lot of them had a lot of experience, which I wanted that too. But we weren't quite able to tap in to the demographic of no experience. And so that's something I'll have to try to solve. I'm not ultimately in control of that in terms of like who shows up. And I had that conversation maybe with 1 or 2 people kind of that day where it's like, oh, hey, I thought this was going to be a little bit more beginner based. I'm like, well, that's part of it. Sure. But I can spread the word. I can encourage other people to spread the word and kind of reach those that I can't. Because ultimately, like my demographic that I work with already probably has some experience, right? So I'm limited in that capacity. But yeah, like I think that's going to be a correction for next year. Is like how can we like reach that market a little bit better, and then also maybe creating a little bit more structure on the lift and learn. I wanted the lift and learn to be very much simple, and like that was kind of the name of the game was simplicity, right? And then also with that simplicity comes a lot of freedom for the coaches that are there volunteering their time. I don't know if the coaches like that in particular, or they wanted more structure or not. But that was definitely the goal, and we did reach that goal for sure as well. But I think there could have been maybe a little bit more clarity, or maybe having a little bit of earlier meeting before we actually started, because I think people showed up a little earlier than I was anticipating for the event. So that kind of combobulated me a little bit in some ways. But yeah, I think ultimately it worked out pretty well. And I think from the outside looking in, it probably looked pretty relatively smooth, I would say.
No, I think I actually have had, great feedback, and I'm sure you have too. When you talk about like the audience, like our audience that you and I and through Practical Wellness and through Practical Wellness Radio that we reach out to, you're right. It is probably not a very like super beginner audience when it comes to lifting.
Those people aren't searching
fitness,
for
right?
fitness stuff. Like they haven't had that, captured. They're like doing other things. Right. So the people that are interested in fitness are going to listen to this podcast. They're just by happenstance that someone that isn't interested in fitness maybe stumbles upon this and listens to it. Right. You know what I mean? So like that demographic of like, you're brand new, let's give this a shot if you're interested, is really hard to touch with, and then obviously like getting them out there is even another thing. So you can make them aware, but then actually getting them out to do the thing is even harder.
Yeah, and I know you and I will, get together before next year and talk about different ideas. Something that, kind of popped into my mind is potentially we could charge a small base fee, to people that are participating. But, maybe we could instill some sort of like, opportunity for people if they bring a friend, then they will waive their fee or whatever, especially like if this friend is, new to whatever, because that's kind of what we're after. Right. And again, I will admire a lot of kind of your approach to this, Cody. We are in the fitness business, right? But, the goal behind this wasn't necessarily in any way for Practical Wellness to profit. Right. I mean, the goal for this, like we said,
I lost money, right?
Was to celebrate
for the event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The goal for this was to celebrate, things that we are passionate about, and we know that other people are passionate about. So again, I'll applaud you for that, and Practical Wellness, from the top to the bottom for that,
Yeah. And we'll talk about some of that stuff. I know like the things that some of the feedback I got was like, hey, can we have shirts? And then, hey, can we have bigger platforms? I'm like, okay, that all costs money. So if people really want that stuff, then there will have to be a cost associated with the event, right? To register or whatever. So that's like your give and take, right? You can do a free event that's fun that I thought went pretty well. If you want to have it improved upon, there might have to be a fee, right? I can only, handle so much of a financial burden for something, that I'm not getting a return on. And that's just kind of it is what it is, right? Those small platforms that we had were expensive. Trust me.
They were.
Luckily,
They
we
just. I mean,
have some resources to get them made, but it was. I really wanted that, so I didn't mind, putting some money down for that. And luckily, we had a little bit of help in some capacity, so that was good. But anyways, I think overall it was just an awesome event. And had some really strong people there too.
Some very, very strong men and women there. And I think we need to say, just one more time, thanks to Big Grove Brewery, because it was kind of the perfect venue in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know where we could have chosen a better place with the space and the opportunity and the, even the logistics. Like, where were we able to have people all from start to finish sign up, walk in, register, do the lift and learn, move tables around, move tables back, do the meet, have a warm up area, have kind of a little viewing area. It was I thought it was great.
Know.
So thanks again to Big Grove Brewery.
I can't think of another place that would have been as good. Definitely not better. So yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, and before, so the weeks leading up to IC Weightlifting Summit, Cody's all stressed out, trying to figure things out, trying to just make sure he's crossed all his T's, dotted all his I's. Like he said, he is a pretty
Well,
prepared,
you guys did that for me when
fella.
you and Julia dotted my T's or dotted my
Yeah.
T's, crossed my T's and dotted my I's.
Yeah,
See, I was
dot your T's,
I was
cross your
dotting
I's.
T's. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So you guys did that for me like
Why did all these T's have dots on them?
Yeah, they're like, are you sure?
But
like,
yeah,
no,
while Cody was doing that, yeah, you know, he was kind of left to deal with all that, you know, by himself the weeks leading up to it, because I took an entire week off and I rode a bicycle across the state of Iowa and drank a bunch of beer and ate a bunch of pie. And
yeah, how'd that go? That was your first ever
so it was
RAGBRAI. First ever RAGBRAI. Survived. I think you had some epiphanies, it sounded like.
I did. Well, I had I mean, I don't know if epiphany. Cody always likes to layer things into like these big, like, I don't know,
monumental moments, life-changing moments.
Like, yes, exactly.
Just change
your
life.
But anyway, so I did, it did kind of like spark a little bit of I don't know, spark something inside of me for like, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed like road biking. And it's hard to kind of match. It's hard to kind of match like that. Oh, just like overall like stimulus or whatever you want to say for like road biking during RAGBRAI, because it's like you have this road and it's just biking, and every once in a while we'd see a car kind of like cruise up behind us or ahead of us on this road, but it was very like free and you didn't have to worry about like cars, and they had everything kind of coned off, and you could just kind of haul ass on your bike, or you could cruise at a slow pace, or you could go whatever. And it's just, I mean, I know I told you this, Cody, like I had a week where I got to every single day, wake up, kind of be a little active, right? Be on my bike, move around, which I appreciate. I got to eat a lot of food because there's, you know, food trucks and places to stop and eat. And I also got to enjoy frosty beverages, and I kind of like all three of those things. Like it checks a lot of boxes for me, and so that was a lot of fun. So RAGBRAI was a lot of fun, and I did it with one of my good buddies, and it was just the two of us. And in a way, it was kind of perfect because we had some other people that were maybe going to join us, and they, you know, for whatever reason, kind of dropped out, you know, as the weeks got closer to RAGBRAI, and you know, we were talking, him and I, his name's Brandon, and I was like, Brandon, it was kind of nice because, you know, we're both very like capable dudes, you know, like as much as I love my wife, and I told her this, I was like, you know, if we were in like a little pack and we're riding bikes and like the group in front of us is really slow, and I was like, all right, this is enough. I'm just going to go around them, just get out of their way, or get them out of my way. You know, if I was with my wife, I'd be like, oh, can she keep up with me, or can she not? Or is that, you know, like, maybe she can or she can't, but it's rude to maybe, you know, like she probably wouldn't appreciate it if I just took off. Where Brandon would be like, he would definitely easily capable of keeping up if he wanted to, or if he didn't want to. Like we're not hurting anybody's feelings, and it wasn't like we're in this big group where we had to like round everybody up at each stop to be like, hey, we're going. Where's so and so? Oh, they're in the porta potty, you know, like. And so it was kind of fun in that manner, like. As a guy, you know, with two like pretty perfect kids, like I love my kids, and you know, like my life is very scheduled right now. You know, like this kid wakes up at this time, we get them ready, we brush their teeth, we go to daycare. Then this kid like naps, and we're actually in this weird point right now where our nanny, we had a nanny who was a high school student and now was graduated and was a nanny through the summer, and went off to college. Right, she's starting college at Iowa State University, and so I'm kind of like helping with the kids a lot more, and so my life is like super scheduled right now because the kids' life is, you know, pretty scheduled. And so
today's an example of like, do we have 30 minutes that we can do a podcast today? Yeah, let's do it.
Exactly. And because I have one kid who's asleep right now, and I have to pick her up, and then or I have to wake her up and then go get the other kid from preschool, and then we have to run across town and run a couple errands and do some stuff. But anyway, so for me, a week long of like not really being that scheduled, being able to be pretty active, move around, drink some beer, eat some food, like I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, and it sounded like you were pretty good at riding a bike. That's what I heard.
Yeah,
like you're speedy.
Well, I Cody knows me well, and if anybody else listening to this knows me well, I like to test myself when it comes to about anything physical, like physically, challenging, and so I just, for whatever reason, like every hill we would come to, I'd be like,
Charge.
I'm not falling behind at this hill. I'm gonna climb this hill, and I'd stand up on my pedals and I'd chug, all the way up, and or there'd be, a guy would fly by me, and I was like, man, he's going fast. I wonder if I can go that fast. And so I'd just like take off after him too. And I don't know, it's probably a little bit like annoying to my buddy Brandon at times, but he's kind of a little bit like that too. And so,
Yeah.
so again,
he's
like,
a high
we had a lot of
performer,
fun.
so definitely.
He is,
and
yeah.
going back next year, I'm assuming.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for next year.
Wow.
Like, I am super, super excited. So, I told Cody this story earlier, and so there's this guy. So here's the story. We were in this little town. I think maybe we got lunch. Brandon and I stopped, and we were probably off our bikes for maybe 30, 45 minutes, whatever, got some food and used the restroom. And then actually, I think he was in line to use the restroom. I didn't need to use the restroom. And we knew it was like 8 miles to the next beer tent. It was one of the last days. And I told Brandon, I was like, hey, I'm going to go fill my water bottle up. And there's little like water, fill up stations, but they have just like set up with PVCs and just little nozzles.
Yeah.
Just like water out of a hose basically. And he's like, cool. And I was like, I'll wait for you there. And then we'll head to this beer tent. So I jump on my bike and I'm riding, and I don't see it. I was like, oh, I'll just kind of cruise out of town nice and easy, and I'll call Brandon or whatever. And so I'm just kind of cruising because I didn't see it, and there wasn't really a great place to pull over because I had kind of bicycles on either side of me. And then I just moved over to kind of the right side of the road and ride nice and easy. And finally, I was like, I better call Brandon. So I called him on my phone, and I'm on speakerphone. My phone is just mounted to my bike, and I was like, hey, Brandon, I didn't see it. So I'm about a half mile out of town now. He's like, well, I'm standing next to it. I was waiting for you. I was like, oh, sorry, buddy. And I was like, I'll kind of cruise and wait for you here. And he's like, oh, you don't, he said something like, he's like, oh, that's a challenge. He's like, you don't have to cruise. I'll catch you. Don't worry. And I was like, you're right. That does sound like a challenge. So I started to pick it up a little bit, and I wasn't riding like super fast at all. And, cause like I said, Brandon is very capable. Like he's a great road bike cyclist. Like he's got a lot of miles on the seat of a bicycle, and
he's and this is, I always think about personality types too. And he's literally like a brain surgeon of some kind. I don't know exactly, but he's like a high level surgeon.
So Brandon is a trauma. Yeah. He's a trauma surgeon. And we always call him the lead goose because he just
high performer dude. Like he's gonna work hard, right? That's the idea, and that transfers to the bike for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're cruising, and I picked it up a little bit at this point, right? Because he's like, "Oh, that's a challenge." I was like, "All right." And so we're cruising, and all of a sudden, this dude, and I'll never forget, he cruises up, and he's kind of like coasting off me a little bit, and I was like, "That's cool, that's fine." I coast off people coast off me, or and draft off me, and he's blaring. He's got this giant speaker on the bottom of his bike, ZZ Top, and I'll never, that'll be ingrained in my mind. And then he passes me, and is that exact moment I was like, I can keep up with this guy, and he's moving pretty fast, and like I could just watch his cadence, and I watched like me being kind of into this fitness coaching and everything. I was just looking at his posture on the bike, and I was like, that guy knows what he's doing. You can just tell, like his cadence and his pedals. He's like, and so I draft off him a little bit, and we see this sign. So now it says 6 miles or whatever to is actually back pocket brewery tent. And so he points to it, and he gives me the thumbs up, and I said, same. I yelled up at him. And so he's just cruising, and I'm cruising behind him, and he starts to slow down a little bit. So I just swing around him, and I take off, and then he's drafting off me, and we kind of do that. We maybe trade back and forth maybe 2 more times each, for the next whatever 6 miles it is. And we just kind of pull off at the beer tent, and he starts talking to me. He's like, man, we were going like, 25 to 27 for, we held that for, 5-6 miles. And I was like, oh, you mean miles per hour? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty fast. And we passed like everybody on the way there. And he starts talking to me about my bike and his bike, and he probably at this point realized that I don't know much about road biking at all. And I just
yep,
I sit on it and I pedal fast, and
spokes.
And he's like, how long have you been riding? And I was like, well, Monday we started on Ragbri. And I was like, I kind of said that sarcastically. I was like, no, I just kind of picked it up this year. And he's like, oh man, he's like, you're doing pretty well. And so it made me feel pretty good. So apparently he was 47 years old, and he said he did competitive road biking for maybe 5 years or something. And so that made me feel pretty good. But it was kind of funny because he's talking to me about all I guess he had a gravel bike, but then he put like road tires on it, and I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I don't know much about biking. So anyway, that was my long story about me feeling pretty good about myself on a bicycle.
Hey, this podcast will transition into a biking podcast once you get more into it, I'm sure. I'll learn a lot.
Yeah, no, so it was all good, and like I said, we get off and then we have a couple beers and we just cruise on again. It was fun.
Yeah, that does sound fun. I don't know if it's fun enough for me to do it next year with you, but I won't give you a hard no yet. Yeah, no, it was good. And then so like I said, I'm looking forward to next year, and it's kind of good for me. It's giving me just another outlet, just another discipline. What's difficult sometimes is, we don't live in a huge town and there's not great biking trails. We can cruise around as a family and have a lot of fun. And actually my daughter is, who's 3.5, has just kind of got up in the last week or so. I saw these videos.
Pedal bike, 2-wheel. Yeah. And she's crushing it. Yeah. And it's
great.
Fun. Like the look on her face, the noises that she squeals out as she's like, I did it. And,
man, it was the best.
But
Instagram, she goes, Yahoo! I laughed. I watched that so many times.
Yeah, so
she started taking off. Yahoo! It's hilarious.
Yeah, we go every day. So we take her out every day, and we need to work on stopping though. She can get going so fast, and she doesn't quite know how to stop yet. But we'll get there.
Is it more of a crash stop right now? Find a grassy spot, soft spot to land, or is Ted running after?
Right now, it's
you're the stop.
Exactly. Right now it's dad sprinting and kind of like helping her slow down, or maybe even like I'll sprint after her and I'll kind of like push on her back heel and be like, okay, push backwards now, because she'll kind of start coasting when she's going really fast.
Yeah.
Backwards stops. But for the most part, she wants to just put her feet down and just drag her feet to stop. And I think that's a little bit more dangerous than anything, to be honest. But yeah, it's fun. She's doing great. And it's just, it's like one of those dad things that you just kind of remember, like, right, your kid learning how to ride a bike. And but Cody, you have to go here pretty soon, I think.
I do.
This is just kind of a quick little recording. You have to teach. So your fall semester just started maybe a week or so ago. What's your schedule look like for this fall? What classes are you teaching? I know you're teaching kind of the same classes. Maybe you've been.
Yeah, I just kind of have the same classes more or less pretty consistently. So I do off-cycle classes. So my classes last 7 weeks, and then I have another set of classes that last 7 weeks. I typically do 6 classes at a time. They're worth 1 credit each. Right now, I'm only doing 5. I have a couple stress management classes, that's where I'll head here after this. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have an introduction to weight training class as well. Yeah, it keeps me pretty busy with all this stuff and the practical wellness stuff. And yeah, it's pretty good.
That's great. So the stress management class, that's just kind of classroom work. Is it some virtual still, or no, it's all classroom? It's all
classroom now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's what I thought.
We're actually
sure. And then your intro to weightlifting, that's some classroom and that's some like hands-on in the weight room also, right?
Well, yeah, our classroom is the same as the weight room. You know what I mean? So like if there is like lecture and stuff, which there has been, it's about 30 minutes of lecture each time we meet. Maybe a little bit longer right now, but yeah, it's all in the same spot. So it's an easy transition
Yeah.
for everybody. I mean, sometimes I wish we were like in a classroom and I could have like a projector. It'd be easier than writing on the whiteboard sometimes,
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
here's my crappy handwriting, or here's a, you know, a picture or whatever. But
Especially with your handwriting.
yeah, it's all
Yeah.
exactly. I always make a, you know, my joke about like, I've been writing on whiteboards, or I've been writing for 30 years and this is what it looks like. I'm sorry, or whatever. And I try to make it funny. It's not, but
Yeah.
sometimes I get sympathy laughs
Yeah.
like that one that you just did.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm a
it's
sucker
going
for
good.
the sympathy laugh. I was like, oh,
I'll take them. Don't worry, I'll
yeah,
take those.
I'm a sucker for the sympathy laugh. Like I'll be like, okay, awkward silence. I'll guess I'll laugh.
Yeah, chuckle. I'll take it. That's worth it for me. I'll keep those bad jokes going. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's my 6th year doing it, so there's not a lot of, you know, stress outside of just like scheduling and, you know, the normal stuff. There's no like, I don't know what I'm doing today, or how to do this, or how to teach this. That's all kind of done. So that makes it kind of nice. So I can do like something like this and I don't have to think about it, and I can just go and do the thing and then leave, and then,
Yeah.
you know, coach clients, and kind of is separated in that way.
So correct me if I'm wrong. These classes, you're given a lot of freedom as far as like curriculum, right? And you have to, I'm sure, like, you know, meet certain like criteria, but like you're given a lot of freedom as far as like how you want to teach it and what you want to teach to a certain extent.
Yeah. You know, we have like course objectives and requirements like that we need to, you know, reach. So our syllabus has to reflect that. But otherwise, and you can always, you know, if you want to put in like a request, like you just talk with your, you know, I have a supervisor and we like, hey, like thinking about changing this. Like I changed the name to stress management not that long ago. It used to be called something different, you know, and I was like, hey, like I want to change the name of this class, and you just got to get it approved. Kind of up the chain of command more or less. So yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah. And then, yeah, kind of be flexible with what I do and make sure the students learn something, and we get some practice in for whatever we're trying to learn, and yeah, come out on the other side better.
That's really interesting, man. I think unfortunately I have to go here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, I should probably go for sure.
Yeah, okay. No, I think that's really interesting. I think I actually am really intrigued. You and I haven't really talked too much about like your stress management class. We talked a little bit about your weightlifting class, but
yeah,
I think like, I mean, those are two like pretty powerful things for people's like livelihood, right? Is weightlifting, you know, resistance
strength
training, and then also managing. Yeah,
maybe that's a good
stress too, right? Like I think
podcast topic. We can talk about stress management one day. Might be good.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know if, you know, of two things that can maybe have a better, you know, response and outlook on people's livelihood than those two topics. But yeah, man, I'll let you get going. Cool. Thanks again to everybody who came out for IC Weightlifting Summit. Cody and I had a great time. And if you guys would do us a huge favor, you can subscribe to the show, rate, review. It helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.